Welcome to Win With Barlow, the podcast where we turn your entrepreneurial dreams into reality. With your host, Akira Barlow. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of DNA testing businesses. Looking to maintain momentum or ready to scale? This series is your guide to success. Let's get started.
Well, hello, family. How are you guys doing out there? It's your girl, Akira Barlow of Win With Barlow, the DNA queen. Welcome back to another audio learning lesson. Super excited to drop this episode for you. Before we jump into all of that, be sure that you check out the description box. If you are interested in starting your own DNA testing business, then be sure you take my DNA training course. It gives you all the tools necessary to actually get your business going. It is extremely easy to follow and it is quite informative, if I must say so myself. So check it out in the description box. Again, family, welcome. Welcome back. Now, in today's episode, we are talking about collectors. We're talking about choosing locations and all of that. And I wanted to have this conversation with you because y'all been hitting me up like, hey, Akira, I want to work with you. I want to work for you until I get my business going. Hey, Akira, like, I want to be a collector for you. I live in ABC, Georgia. I want to work for you. So I want to clarify like what that means and like what all of that looks like, just so that we're on the same page. All right. So first things first, I have already established my business. Okay. So with that being said, I've already picked out the locations and cities in which I plan to, have my brand. And I selected these cities based on quite a few things. Number one, I based it on, of course, competition. So I like to choose areas that are not overly populated or overly saturated with DNA testing options. And I like to choose areas that don't have a lot of like medical services. And I know you're like, what? But yes, I like to choose places that don't really have a LabCorp, that don't have a Quest, that don't have a lot of DNA testing options, just so that, we have a better chance of being able to lock that market down. So I'm not saying that you can't start a private DNA testing agency anywhere. I'm not saying at all. What I'm saying is that I select certain areas that I feel like will be good for business in order to, set my brand up there. Because you guys have to understand that when you are creating, demand for something, you have to market there. So when I choose a location and I choose collectors, that means that I have to actually spend money on actually marketing in that city. And that's not look, that ain't no cheap thing, baby. Okay. That is not a cheap process. So the places that my business is already listed and already servicing, those are the areas in which I plan to do business. I don't really see myself adding any newer locations like right now. As we, grow and as we, build this thing out even more, of course, I will be selecting other areas, but all of that goes back to location. Number one, making sure the market is not overly saturated. I also like to select areas in which I know that we'll have a better chance of recruiting partners. So a lot of times I may select the location and I will work that location literally for 90 days. And that looks like a bunch of cold calling. That looks like maybe some newspaper placements. That looks like a lot of email marketing, just so that I can determine and see if we're going to get a good buzz. So I'll do a lot of pre-marketing, so to speak, just to determine if this is going to be a good place. And I actually would like to make that same recommendation to you. As a new business, if you're unsure of how this thing is going to work in your area, my advice to you is to kind of just test it out. Test out, some small, marketing strategies to see how people respond so you can know how deep you want to get into this whole thing. So that's another aspect of it. And then lastly, I like to choose collectors that do not want to start their own DNA testing agency. I know you're probably looking at your phone like, girl, what? Why? But it is absolutely the truth. I find that when you're building a team, it's best for everybody to know their role. And over here on this team, I'm the leader. Okay. And I don't want people that are striving to replicate what I'm doing or striving to, you know, be me. I know that in business, it doesn't resonate well. It doesn't turn out to be a good thing. So I like to select collectors who typically already have a full-time job, who have something else going so that they're not relying on my income to, make their lifestyle work for them. And I like to choose people who are already in the medical field. So whether someone is a phlebotomist or whether someone is a travel nurse or something like that, that's more along the lines of who I like to hire as collectors. Also, if a person can't draw blood, if they're not a phlebotomist, they are not of a great asset to me now in business, because I need people who can do my top performing tests, which are the non-invasive prenatals, also gender reveals. Gender reveals are also kind of like some of the first services that I like to kind of put out in the area to kind of build up that buzz and build up my connections. If you go to these maternity stores or baby consignment shops, places like that to, promote your prenatal DNA testing services, it's easier to move on to just DNA testing altogether, because these people can automatically, recommend you for that because of the experience of the service that you've already provided when it comes to gender reveals or just the non-invasive DNA testing option. A lot of places don't offer this. I love to team up with those 3D ultrasound places. I know y'all, sure y'all got them in your area too. I love to partner with them and connect with them, because as people come in to, see their babies on the screen in 3D, they usually give them like a little packet of information or a little bag or something. And I like to make sure that our content and our marketing material is in that bag. So when I'm looking for collectors, I'm really not looking for people who are trying to start their own business. It just doesn't do well for business. So, and I'm referring to people who are like actual collectors of my company, not people that I outsource tests to in certain areas just to get, someone to facilitate a test. So for example, I may have a student that take the class, they're in the class and, I might just have someone that needs a collection done there, and I may call them because they've started their own DNA testing business, but they're not actually my collector, so to speak. I hope I'm making sense. So that's a kind of different kind of ball game as opposed to someone actually working as a collector on my payroll. So I wanted to kind of touch on that real quick, kind of give you some insight on that. My advice to you, as always, y'all, is to start small. Do I think you should branch out? Absolutely, because I feel like that's really where the money is. You may not have a test in your area, but you may have 2 or 3 tests in other areas because other collectors are working for you. So I definitely think that it's a great business model, but I definitely think it's something that you should strive to get to. Don't come out of the gate trying to be in 20 different areas, because you got to spend some money to promote this thing. So that's my take on it. I'll see you guys in our next audio learning lesson. Drop me a question below if you have anything that you want to add to this, or any question that you may want me to answer in regards to adding collectors, choosing locations for your DNA testing business. But again, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next audio session.